Mr. Masood Ashar, on my right, a leading writer and journalist. Masood Ashar is regarded as one of the most important contemporary Urdu fiction writers. He's published 3 collections of short stories to date, the first of which included a number of stories on the theme of the military action in the former East Pakistan. A number of of his stories have been translated into English, Turkish, Hindi, and other languages and published in anthologies representing literature from Pakistan. Mr. Masood Ashar is currently associated with Mashal, a non-profit organization aimed at the publication of development literature. And through this organization, he has facilitated the translation and publication of hundreds of contemporary books into Urdu. Hoori Noorani, right here, runs a Karachi publishing house, Maktabai Danyal, which she inherited from her late father, Malik Noorani. Following her early education in Karachi, her love for literature and linguistics led her towards a master's degree in philosophy with a major in Russian and world literature from the People's University in Moscow. Upon her return to Karachi, she did a short stint as a teacher of Russian language at the Russian Cultural Center before joining Maktabai Danyal. Her publishing house has published renowned authors such as Mushtaq Ahmad Yusfi, Sayyid Sibte Hassan, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Iftikhar Arif, Hamida Riaz, Habib Jaleb, and many others. Currently, she is working on a series of translations into Urdu of Russian classical literature. And Hoori Noorani is a trained classical dancer, and she has also translated Heinrich Borowick's famous play, Interview, in Buenos Aires, from Russian into Urdu. Mandira Sen, on my right, is based in Calcutta, and she's a publisher and champion of women's issues and social dissent. After spending nearly 6 years in publishing in Boston, working for various publishing houses, she came to Calcutta in 1978 and worked as a regional editor of Orient Longman. Mandira explored ways of starting a company on her own, beginning with Mandira, which published mostly bilingual children's books and some books on the social sciences. In the US, Mandira had come into contact with many women's rights activists, and she wished to use this experience to highlight what was being done concerning women's issues in India, and to help educate people about the movement and its contributions to civil society. With the Bhaktals of Popular Prakashan, Bombay, she formed the partnership of Bhaktal and Sen in 1990, which publishes on the workplace, class relations, and political subjection, marriage, the family, the impact of religion, culture, and ideology. It translates women's writings, fiction and non-fiction, from Indian languages into English. Bhaktal and Son publish under 2 imprints, Stree and Samya. Mandira Sen is also a partner of Independent Publishers Distribution Alternatives, Delhi. Mr. Marc Perron, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly.
Yes.
Marc has been working in international publishing for 28 years in the wake of his studies in French and comparative literature in Paris and New York. For the last 10 years, he has been a publisher of fiction and foreign fiction, where he put together a major Indian and Pakistani catalogue, considered the best in Europe, of writers including Aravind Adiga, Tarun Tejpal, Sukitu Mehta, Gurcharan Das, Kiran Nagarkar, Pankaj Mishra, Jaspreet Singh, Tishani Doshi, Rajmohan Gandhi, Fatma Bhutto, Kamla Shamsi, Danial, Moinuddin, Atish Tasir, and Sadat Hassan Manto, translated directly from Urdu into French. And he also published Tibetan Book of the Dead in a new and complete French translation. In 2013, Marc started a one-of-a-kind international literary agency called India Maya Literary in Paris, representing directly and worldwide writers from all over the globe with a special focus on fiction and non-fiction works from India and Pakistan. I'm also delighted to welcome Joya, who's here from Italy and is a translator. Joya, may I ask you to talk about yourself for a couple of minutes?
Thank you for having me here. I'm a professional literary translator, and I've been working in publishing for about 20 years. I've been focusing for years on Indian writers writing in English, and I've been exploring the literature from the subcontinent, and now I'm also exploring other parts of Asia. So it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here with publishers and translators and people who have the same passion for literature as me.
I think I'll just ask all the publishers on the stage to talk about their experiences of publishing, the challenges and the opportunities. And after that, maybe I can ask them specific questions. Then we'll open it to the floor. So, Hoori, can we start with?
Yes, he is the right person.
Thank you, Ameena. When we talk about publishing, certain cliches come to mind, like the age of information technology and media explosion and information expansion and all that. But as far as the Pakistan publishing industry is concerned, we are still living on the peripheries of this technological revolution, and obsolete printing, publishing, and marketing techniques exist side by side with this. Of course, web publishing has become, everyone is doing desktop publishing, and most publishers have their websites now, and a sizable amount of books are being ordered online. But there still exists the same old techniques, especially I think the weaknesses in our on the publishing scene exist in the marketing sector and the distribution sector. And even if Pakistan is far behind not only just developed countries, but even developing countries. I mean, if we look in our neighborhood, Iran or India, we are far behind them in publishing. Now, the problems we face are so many. The non-availability or high prices of quality printing paper, the high prices of other printing material like ink and plates and machinery, the lack of trained staff, the lack of scientific methods of distribution and marketing, the lack of stringent copyright laws, and of course, most importantly, the print runs in our country is so low, which is directly connected to the education sector and to the rate of literacy of our country. Now, this directly affects the economics of publishing in our country, where books are printed in a print run of 500 or 1,000 copies, and of every 10 books that one publishes, maybe 1 or 2 will be successful, and that also sells over a number of months. So your finances are blocked for a long period of time, and this of course means that your print runs are low, your retail prices are high, and of course then the accessibility for the common man it becomes difficult. So it's like a vicious cycle, and I just feel that for us to succeed in the modern world, it is very important to educate our masses.
Marc, would you like to talk about your experience?
Yes, Hoori has painted a complex image of publishing in Pakistan, and as gloomy as it may as it may seem, it cannot be as gloomy as what's happening in the West right now, because there is a crisis right now in the West. Books don't sell anymore. Frankly, bookstores are closing one after the other. Whole book chains are closing also one after the other. But there's something even more disturbing which is happening, which is that, and it was like a piece of thunder in the sky of international publishing a year ago, when it was announced that Random House and Penguin were going to merge. And they did merge. It took effect in the beginning of this year. And other mergers are being considered right now. Publishing houses like HarperCollins are looking at Simon & Schuster. And in France, Gallimard has bought Flammarion. Now, and I guess that even in Italy it's going to happen. Now, the aim of these mergers is not at all the same as what happened in the 90s, when publishing houses like HarperCollins were born, or Random House Bertelsmann were born, to explore new markets and to develop new ranges of books to be sold across more markets. No. Today, these mergers are born out of fear. And I think that fear is the worst counselor in the world. The worst ideas come out of fear. And I say that because the main reason behind these mergers is to actually fight Amazon. And to fight Amazon, publishers think that they should get together and that they should unionize and mutualize their services at the expense of editors, at the expense of publicists, at the expense also of authors. So the situation is actually not looking quite good, if I may say. But I still would like to paint another picture, which is the internationalism of publishing. India and Pakistan today represent the future. And I know that it's difficult to say something like this when you are confronted to the problems that you are confronted to today. But on the long run, and this is what we have to do, is to think on the long run, although it is not something that is proper to publishing, to think on the long run. On the long run, we have to look at the English language market in these countries. And Pakistan and India have an English language market which is considerable. In India alone, the market is estimated at 300 million people. And I think that it says a lot about the role of English and how English is more and more used and desired by all kinds of people to actually come out of these difficulties that you are facing today. So I think that the future belongs to your countries, and I think that it's going to happen. Nothing is permanent. I think that it definitely is going to happen. This is the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is that despite these mergers in the West, despite the books not selling anymore, despite the bookshops closing down, despite the mergers, the giant mergers, and despite also the hope represented and embodied by the emerging markets today, especially in India and Pakistan, there is something that belongs to us, is that we love books and that we thrive on books. And I think that as long as publishers, editors, people who work in the business have two qualities, will be saved. And these two qualities, to be a good publisher and to make a book work and to bring happiness to an author, is A, intuition, and 2, a sense of marketing. And these two conditions, I think, can actually give birth to success in publishing and show me, at least, that the book and the written word and the word of the authors will never die. Thank you.
Mandira, please will you share your experiences?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank people who invited me to come to the, it's the 5th Karachi Literary Festival. It's a great honor to be here, and it's such an exciting, vibrant place. You hear of stereotypes about Karachi, but that is exactly just what they are, quite worthless. You look below the surface, and there's a vibrant, creative, generous society, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you. Well, publishing for me actually comes in from that ethos, and as an independent publisher, I'm not sure if I would come under that second category that Marc just mentioned of marketing success, because I think I've not succeeded very much in marketing. The books, as an independent, we have exciting books because we take risks, and we are interested in new kinds of knowledge being put forward. And so we look out, we scout, we develop new authors in new genres. So we are looking out also to how India is changing, how new kinds of people want to express themselves, like away from the elite women who got a chance, away maybe onto the Dalit women who are now beginning to write, people from the margins. And we have presented this in our 2 lists, 3, which is gender studies, and Samia, which means equality and social change. And this has been challenging for us. The marketing failure comes from not being able to have enough finances to deal with, and I'm bad at raising funds. And so it means that we don't really do more than 10 books. And that means the whole volume of your business is small, and that kind of thing. But we don't regret it. At the moment, we think that growth is going to be in Dalit studies, where we are now doing translations into English from Indian languages of what Dalit women are writing. The Dalits are what the erstwhile untouchables want to call themselves and have been since the 1970s. And Dalit means to be grounded down. And they say that's what Indian society has done to them, but they are now up like, was it Toni Morrison who said, like air, I rise. And like dust, I rise, sorry. So it's an exciting thing for us to do this, albeit in an atmosphere of precarious finance. You kind of lurch, independents in India who don't have funding, lurch from one financial crisis which they surmount to another. And maybe there'll be a time when you actually don't survive and you'll have to reinvent yourself. And who knows? I mean, we don't want to do this, but you may have to be part of one of those huge, maybe not such a huge organization, but a smaller one. So I think the list, which is exciting and valued, it looks more impressive when you don't know the financial precariousness, is changing. I mean, we didn't do, it was foolish of us, we didn't link up our books to university courses. Now we have a whole bunch of readers which are doing well. And this is in women's studies. On the Dalit scene, we've moved away just from autobiographies and memoirs onto the second generation of Dalits who've had education, because you know India has this reservation affirmative action policy going since independence. So you've got people who've been to university, who are perhaps professors, and so they're offering up their kind of analysis of Indian society, so a new kind of social science, and we're doing that. So this is valuable. Another thing which is going to be a growth area, and it's taking you away from English language publishing, which is to attend to the whole new educated populace of India who come from the regional languages and have problems at university which are English medium. I think it's probably the same in Pakistan, but I do know of colleges, of most colleges in India outside the elite, where English literature is taught in the local language. I mean, they teach Shakespeare, they explain Shakespeare, say in Bengali. Now, to get away from their problems, we think we are going to do some text, not exactly textbooks, but some of our books in Bengali. One thing what the independence pioneer, which is sometimes looked with derision at first, but now with great interest by the bigger companies, including Ameena's Oxford University Press, is they do watch what you're doing. So say when we started publishing on Dalits and in the 1996 period, everyone thought we were crazy. Nobody's going to read this stuff. But people did. And people forgot that you have this readership which wants to read about itself. So that's what happened. Our major book, Why I'm Not a Hindu, a Shudra critic of Hindutva, economics, policy, culture, whatever, is like a manifesto for the Dalits and the what's known just above them, the other backward classes. I don't know if you have these peculiar classifications, but it seems to work politically in India. And this book has helped us widen the market, go outside the distribution network, which treats us fairly unkindly, as Hoori said. You get letters from Indian jails saying, I don't have the full price of the book, but I can give you 50 rupees. Can you send me this copy? Things like that. And this kind of list has been our bestseller and kept us going. Of course, that particular author has now been picked up by Sage, and I think by Pearson Education. He came back to us when he needed our kind of editorial support, because independents are terrific at editorial and production. But you do lose authors, and that's a reality. So you build something up, and then a large company with its resources. I mean, we can't do multi-city launches, you know. I mean, it nearly kills us to do one in Calcutta and one in Delhi. And we certainly can't take authors all around the country, as, say, my sister Ranjana did when she was working for Penguin, and she had Shugata Bose. I think he got to Dhaka as well, Singapore as well. Here, there, everywhere. He possibly came here as well. We can't do these things. So you lose authors. But if a large company can take away your author and your ideas, and that also means society's changed, what was once marginal is now mainstream, you can also fight back by doing, say, things which they used to do, like these textbooks and readers in the Indian languages. So I think while there is a lot of gloom, because it is hard to sell books, the sales online are not matching the ones you're losing through the bookstores. Meanwhile, the government, which did support you by providing funding to all these institutional libraries that bought your kind of book, hasn't done that for 2 years. So when you starve a trade of money, it is very, very painful. And the thing about publishers in India is that they're not organized. They're not even seen as a proper industry. I mean, they may tom-tom away and say we are the third largest English printing industry or whatever, publishing industry. But what does it actually mean? You know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. What does it mean? You don't really have access the way another industry does to lobby a government and that kind of thing. So it is difficult for publishers, but we don't give up. I mean, we didn't come into, publish books or deal with ideas because we thought it was easy, right? And if we wanted to be rich people, we wouldn't have chosen this profession.
This is true.
Maybe.
This is true.
Well, maybe if you are the top CEO of this monstrous combined random penguin, or are they penguin random?
whatever their name.
Whatever
the
their
result
name
is the
is.
same, frankly.
Then possibly you live a opulent, I don't know, oil tycoon life. But the rest of us are happy with somebody who came from Marc's country, France, André Chiffrin, and built up this dazzling list called Pantheon. I mean, it brought all the European intellectual contributions to knowledge to America. It did those translations, and it was like a revelation. And he said that, if you're not greedy and you have a great quality list, your profits will be perhaps 5 or 6%. You can live quite nicely on that, but not like a Fifth Avenue banker. So this is the kind of thing that motivates us. We are worried about sales, we are worried about collections, but we're going to keep at it because humans don't live by bread alone, and they need that book. Thank you.
Mr. Masood Ashar Saab.
I'm working with Mashal. Mashal is a very small publishing organization. It's an NGO, non-profit, non-governmental organization. We publish translations from other languages to familiarize our readers to world literature and world education. So I don't want to paint a gloomy picture, but there is a huge problem of distribution, particularly the third man, bookseller. Bookseller is our, he wants a 40 to 60% discount. And that is the main problem for publishing in Urdu particularly. And just as Hoori said, we have a very small market of readers, Urdu readers. And another problem, I think, as Marc mentioned, is the English publications, English literature and other publications imported as well as local published in Urdu, in English. They are gaining market, capturing market of Urdu, particularly Urdu, serious Urdu writers. We have Darood wa Wazaif, we have Baba Yahya Khan, we have another popular writers who sell, but serious writings are very limited. We have, as Hoori said, our 500 to 1,000. And so we are, it's not a gloomy picture, but we are facing very difficulties in selling, particularly marketing. Our particular problem is marketing. So we don't have to pay writers. So there's a problem of Urdu literature, Urdu marketing, as Hoori said.
Thank you.
Just to add, I was thinking about Chiffrin, and he wrote these two amazing books about publishing. And one was called The Business of Words. And it was, imagine that, it was recently republished by Navayana, which is a small independent publishing house. And they were the first that combined the two books. So that is an amazing feat. And to find it.
Maybe Verso had combined it, I'm not sure, but he brought
I don't think, I always read them separately, but to go to a bookshop in India to find their book, and I know the publisher. So as Marc was saying, I agree that the future, I mean, Europe is really, at the moment, is going through, it's like a Titanic, so we just can hope that something happens and some miracle happen. But publishing, I'm sure, also paper publishing, books are going to stay. I'm sure about this, even if sometimes I think, oh, maybe I won't have any work, like translation work in a few years. Because basically what's happening in Italy is that people have no money for books because they're struggling to make a living. Factories are being closed. So where do you find those 20 euros for a book? So we're going back to basic, more selection. Of course, some publishers are making money with bestsellers, but bestsellers are not necessarily a bad thing. Like, of course, not many people like the usual bestsellers, but those bestsellers allow certain publishing houses to produce amazing novels, either in translation or locally written. So it's a whole chain, and the distribution problem that you are facing here has been with us in Europe for more than 17 years. Business plans, basically the business model for publishing in Europe never changed for 70 years. So it's been going on, and then of course Amazon or Flipkart, for that matter, in India, just fill the gap that publisher where, nobody really had come up with something alternative, and then Amazon immediately jumped in. But really here, I can see in India and in Pakistan, not only you read each other, which is for me fantastic, because I met so many Pakistani writers when I was in India, and vice versa. So literature can actually remove borders, So that's the beauty, and that's why we're still here, and that's why printed books will be here for many years to come, I'm sure.
Thank you, Joya. Actually, I just, do you want to respond to any of the, any of the points raised by others?
On the point of economics, I just would like to bring a precision, is that France has a separate system which is called the NBA, the National Book Agreement, which has been implemented in 1981, and that stipulates that all books have to be sold at the same price. So whether you buy in a supermarket or whether you buy in your local bookshop, the books will be at the same price, except when they have reached 2.5 years of usage or when the copyright has expired. Then you can actually remain them. So this system is holding together a huge amount of bookshops in France, because we have about 17,000 bookshops which actually are holding off like that. It doesn't, however, save some bookshops, which I said in the beginning had gone under. Virgin, the whole Virgin group has gone under. Another group has gone, called Chapter, has gone under also. Each time there are 25 or 30 bookshops that just fall down the drain, and then you have individual bookshops that have closed also. But I have to say that the NBA, this system that allows a book, that forces, in fact, a publisher to fix a same price for a book, whether it's sold in a supermarket or in a local bookshop, is actually saving a huge part of the industry.
We don't have any system or law.
I think you see the havoc, the absence of this agreement has done in America and the UK.
Yes.
It's just terrible. In India, a lot of bookshops are closing, and some part of the crisis, their personal crisis, because these are usually owner bookshops, small bookshops, is that the present owner says, my children cannot come into this trade anymore. They're not going to be able to make a living from this. And I think that is a very sad reality. There is now a sense of chains coming up. I mean, the Park Hotel in Calcutta owns hotels, I think, in 3 or 4 cities, and they've bought a lot of floor space. I think in the Meridian Hotel in Delhi, they have 2,000 square foot space, and they are filling it with books, etc. And of course, there are people who said they didn't pay us when they had a small shop, but maybe they will now. But you know, this is some of the trends. And you have Crossword, which is also a large chain all over the country, and others. So book selling is changing. And it's sad when small local bookshops close up, because I think it does harm a community.
What about libraries?
Libraries are suffering from that government starvation of funds.
As in Pakistan.
And also, I think the Indian parent of school-going children or younger children hasn't understood yet the importance of reading something a little away from that school timetable and encourage the reading habit. You read this because it will help you in the exam. And I think that is also a problem in our society.
Economically, the library will only buy 1 copy of a book. The bookshop will buy 10. When this is the big difference also.
But if there are 1,000 libraries.
1,000 libraries, yes,
Yeah.
as in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially in the Punjab.
Especially in the Punjab. Yes.
As far as what you were saying about booksellers,
Booksellers, discount.
There's this huge misconception that, you know, the publisher is this monster who's overpriced the book and is not doing anything for the reader. It doesn't work out, because if you give 60% to the bookseller, you're adding that to the cost of the book.
Yes.
You're adding the cost of production plus the royalty plus the 60% that you'll be giving to the bookseller, and of course your overheads and a little bit of the profit. So, but then, you know, bookshops are closing down.
The price
also.
of paper and printing.
70% of the price of the cost of production is paper. And but bookshops are also closing down, and books are, if you talk to bookshop owners, they'll tell you that they're surviving on selling stationery, not books.
In India, we do have a huge network of government-funded libraries, and it's done. It starts from the state, and I think we have. How many states do we have now? 29? Anyway, it starts with the state capital. Then it moves off to smaller towns. Then the district headquarters will have a library, and then apparently down to the village. So this is a huge network. And when the funding did work, if you had a title that they selected, they would slot it according to how they could spread it, what was relevant for which library. But the topmost, they would buy about 400 copies. And that has stopped for 2 years.
Is any of you affected by book piracy?
Yes.
I think I'll open open it to the floor. Ji, Mr. Javed Jabbar.
Thank you, Ameena, for the opportunity. I unfortunately missed the earlier presentations, but I just want to pay tribute to a very small, unknown publisher called Oxford University Press.
Unknown.
Which has set a remarkable example of cross-retail. They wanted too much time for my precious manuscript to be published. So I went to another publisher who published it within 2 months. But they don't have a network. And lo and behold, I requested the head of this little-known publishing firm, which also has a network of retailers, to store and retail my precious book. And I want to acknowledge that heads of publishing houses are, after all, human beings, and they have a tender heart. And I hope that this example is followed by others, because the retail community is very, very heartless. They're not interested in a low-priced book, because their margins are obviously low. So I went to the head, I met the head of a large retailing network, whose first response to me was, could you ask the publisher to increase my retail margin, because your book is so low priced I mean, I can't make a decent profit. So us poor authors need to find new ways, along with that little known publisher, to look at new ways to market books in this cruel environment. Thank you very much, OUP.
Thank you, Javed.
Asked about book piracy. How is it can it be controlled? And the thing is it a very big disheartening thing for the author and for the publisher? Like before, as soon as the book is become very successful, it is being pirated. So what do you do about it?
You know, my experience tells almost like an anecdote, because my best-selling author is Mushtaq Ahmed Yusufi, and his books were pirated. They're always pirated all the time, and they were pirated in Lahore. And this time we managed to catch the man because we found the books at the binders. So, but the gentleman who'd done it came to us, and we said we took the whole stock of books from him, and we said we will publicly burn them to make it, a drama out of it, and have the press there and all that. And he kept making us an offer. He said, just buy them off us, and sell it. And so, and it was a really, I had to pay the police, I had to pay the lawyer to just draw up a document, restricting him from doing this. And but I think OUP suffers the most from
Absolutely, we really suffer.
Yeah.
And it really adds to the cost of doing business in Pakistan, because you spend so much money on copyright protection and brand protection. And I feel that in a way it actually diminishes our brand, because people ask me that what's happening to the quality of your books. Look what, and they show me a book and they said, is this look at your quality, and it turns out to be a pirated book. So it's actually spoiling our reputation. It is harming our authors, because for every pirated book they get no royalties, the government gets no taxes. It's just it's something terrible. And as Hoori said, the laws here are very weak, and enforcement is even weaker. And worst of all, it's the mindset. People feel that piracy in a third world, in a poor country, it's a good thing. And I went to complain to the Interior Minister in Islamabad, and I was telling him about the piracy of our books, and he said, Bibi, yahan bam phat rahe hain, log mar rahe hain, aap kitabon ka masla leke aa gayi hain. So this is the attitude of our government.
And we don't have any agreement with India.
Yeah. Well, our books are pirated in Bangladesh.
And our books also.
There's nothing you can do. But in general, our societies don't really respect copyright or understand copyright. You have authors who don't understand copyright. We have an author who said, I want my book done in very many languages. I've got this chance, and I've said, go ahead and do it free. I said, you've looked at your contract with us. Clause XYZ says it's to be left in our hands. We negotiate. You get some royalty too. So let me talk to this person. But there's not much you can do when the author is hand in glove with this situation. And when I say they don't understand copyright, there's one whose essay from Sage Publishers collection was published in ours, and we arranged for copyright permission. And then he just happily rewrote bits and pieces here and there, put in a new conclusion, did all kinds of things. So there's no understanding of copyright or why it's important. And they play straight into the hands of two lots of people. One who want to flout copyright, and another bunch who don't want copyright at all. This is the Creative Commons, right? Everything should be free.
Well, I agree that OUP has suffered a great deal, perhaps more than anybody else in Pakistan. And Hoori has suffered also, and there are others who have suffered. But let's not forget, I I'm speaking from the point of view of an author who has suffered at the hand of a publisher in India until I went to Penguin India. And I find that I was deprived of the royalty to the extent that there was a function where I was speaking and 150 copies were sold there of Medicine, of Tales of Two Cities. And when the statement came from that particular Indian publisher, it said 52 copies were sold. So as an author, I sympathize with the plight of the publishers, but not all publishers are angels, by the way.
This is true. This is true. What to say?
Hi everyone. My question is about marketing and how how the marketing needs for a first-time author are different than for an established author. Because I presume for an established author, by name alone, helps a lot. So how is it different for a first-time author?
Marketing, unfortunately, in our Western markets and in our Western countries and publishing houses, depends greatly on your own history as an author. The production today is so big and so important. In other words, so many books are coming out in France and in the rest of Europe and in the West. To actually answer the needs of distribution, much more than the needs of readers, that if you don't have a best-selling experience and history, your novel will not be promoted accordingly to its value and accordingly to your own wishes. And I'm going to sound very subversive, but at the end of the day, the publisher which is actually the best at promoting unknown authors is Amazon. It's true. Because the books, the first novels come into Amazon. Amazon is a publishing house today. They have 6 different imprints. And they believe that the books, once they are published, whether in ebooks or whether on paper, have to be promoted right away because this is how they function. They have a website and they have a series of websites and they have a series of scenes on the web that have to be fulfilled all the time. So your book will be there with the cover, with the title, with the syllabus, and with the first comments of the readers coming in. And this is a whole new culture that we have to adapt to. And today, I say that a lot of publishers in the West have actually missed the the digital turn and the international turn as well. That's another story.
I just want to add that I think you're right, Marc. Amazon has encouraged a lot of new books, new authors, but also self-publishing.
Self-publishing as well, of course.
So much so, I think that Penguin, I believe, has started this self-publishing. They're offering that under different imprint.
It's called Partridge.
Okay.
Partridge. And that bestseller, The Abominable 50 Shades of Grey, was self-published.
Yes.
Yes.
But you know, I just want to respond to your remark, Mandira, when you said that somebody offered you 50 rupees for your book. We are inundated with letters asking us to give them free books.
Oh, we get that too. We get that too. Sometimes we relent, but if you can't get 50 rupees from a jail, what do you do? It's sort of heavy emotional pressure.
Any other
No, but
questions?
this is Ameena, this is something that actually concerns all markets. This question of people have the feeling that culture is something that's free.
That's right.
That it is owed to them, you know? And that they don't, when you were talking about the fact that there is no culture of the copyright, it's because even on the part of some authors, they feel that actually their word, spreading their word, is something that is completely normal and in line with an a storytelling tradition that has been going on for so many thousands of years, that why should they actually make something special of that and contain it in something that belongs to them, you see? And the result, in fact, is that they believe in spreading the word. It doesn't really matter to them.
Well, it does matter when his.
I mean, of course it matters economically.
His work gets, when the rights of his work get sold, say, to a US anthology or a UK anthology, and you negotiate and he gets about £500. That's a nice amount of money in Indian rupees, and he hasn't refused it so far. You know, he's quite happy to get it.
Actually, one of our authors who didn't depend on her royalties for her living said, I'm flattered that my book has been pirated.
But actually, you know, when I published Sahadat Hassan Manto, which is something that I wanted to do for a long time, and as I said the other day, I couldn't actually leave this world without publishing Manto. And if I was on the verge of leaving this world, I would ask the Lord for a credit of time, just for me to publish the book, and then I could go. But it was so important for me to publish Manto that, and I wanted to do it well. In other words, to publish it from the Urdu and translate it directly from the Urdu into French, which I did. But the rights actually were with Manto's daughters in Lahore.
Daughters, yes.
Ashar. And then what happened was that when I looked at the date, you know, we have a number of years passed beyond which the rights, in fact, belong to the public domain. And actually, Manto had entered the public domain just at that moment. But I still asked my translator, my Urdu translator in Paris, who knew the daughters of Manto in Lahore, to actually give them the rights that belong to them. So it's something that belongs, I think, to the ethics of publishing, and maybe even more the dharma of publishing.
And who is the translator? So sorry.
Alain Desoulières, his name is.
How did the book do?
Unfortunately, it didn't do well, and this is something that has saddened me over the years, is that I have published, as you said, Ameena, 5 distinguished Pakistani authors into French, but each time, despite my hopes, the books did far less well than what I wanted them to do. And this was, and I have to say, because of the negative image of Pakistan in France. And it's very disturbing when you are a passionate publisher like I was, to believe so much into passing on this literature and then being blocked because people say, oh, but it's from Pakistan, therefore it's from a country with terrorists, or it's from a country with Taliban, or it's from a country with corruption, or it's a country... And the image of Pakistan that is actually conveyed a lot on our media has to do much more with the negative sides of the country than with the positive sides of the country. And I think it is my duty, and even more, I think, today, to actually go against that, and through literature and through texts and authors, give another vision of Pakistan, in which I believe.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask Marc, wouldn't you think it would be different now, like compared to like 3-4 years ago?
The results in sales of the books are unfortunately there. You know. But I mean, I think that I also believe in impermanency. I think that nothing is permanent, and I think that slowly it's going to get much better, because it can only get better. But I also think that and I was talking about that with someone who works with the strategic studies of Pakistan this morning, and he's well aware of the problem as well. And I think that there's something to be done from the public powers in Pakistan to change. And it takes, it takes people. At the end of the day, it takes people. If you have the right person in the embassy in Pakistan in Paris, who's going to say, okay, well, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to try to give a better image and promote the literature and promote this and promote. And if everybody starts doing that, then something is bound to happen, and something positive is bound to happen. So I think that, yes, I mean, I'm an optimist by birth, but I think that this actually might happen. Yes.
Also because there's more and more good literature coming out of Pakistan, and hopefully more translations as well.
And the diasporic Pakistani author is very welcome everywhere. I mean, Nadim Aslam.
No, Nadim Aslam or Hanif Qureshi, for instance, they do well, but they're associated to. They're not associated to Pakistan directly. They were associated to an Anglo-Indo-Pakistani trend. You see,
you're right.
that is not as, of course, as negative as being from Pakistan when you're
you
writing.
also have writers like Bilal Tanvir and. The Prisoner just came out. There's another book.
But I have great hopes also.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, there are people that want to stay here, and they're teaching here, they're writing in English because it comes natural to them. So I have hopes for the future.
It can only change.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think Muhammad Hanif is not a global writer. He's a Pakistani writer.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
So thank you very much. I'd like to thank the distinguished panel.
Thank you, Ameena. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.